So in the meantime, I think we can, number one, defund it at a minimum. You know, defund its implementation until we can find out, you know, whether we can be successful in the laws.
Right.
Yes, sir. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Joe.
Well, while you're drinking that, don't you think it's totally wrong that we could force people to buy insurance and prosecute them or throw them in jail if they refuse? And say you can't do that? I'm a free South Carolinian?
Absolutely. I'm free American. I mean, it is, I think it's socialism. I mean, I've said it before, it's socialism. I mean, you can't, you know, the president, you know, I don't have anything personally against him. I don't know him that well. But I'm going to do everything I can to fight him because he's taken this country down a European socialistic model, gentlemen.
Well, this new bill that they're trying to do that the House has already passed about, you know, Wall Street regulation.
Yes, sir.
Why is it that nobody in Washington is stating the obvious that the regulations is what caused the problem we got now?
Exactly.
Why put more on there?
Exactly.
Nobody's bringing up that the regulations caused the problem that we had in the last 2 years.
When we talk about what really turned the corner, Patrick, was the CRA, Community Reinvestment Act.
Exactly.
When you mandate that you have to give somebody a loan whether they're qualified or not, no matter who they are, that's not the issue. The issue is telling a bank, a capitalistic entity, that they've got to do something just because they got to do it.
You see, we basically know who the proponents of the people were without bringing my name to it. It was crammed down our throat. Anytime you have a person in charge of the IRS that avoided paying his own tax, it did not pay his own income tax, and he's in charge of the IRS for the whole country.
That's
a bad shape.
That's a bad signal. Bad signal.
If the feds continue on their present course, would you say the time possibly could come when secession might be the only remedy?
I'll say this, Pastor. The only way we're going to get this nation back is one state at a time. And we'll certainly look at every situation as it arises, but I think we need to exhaust all measures.
I didn't hear the end.
Well, I don't know that I would, at this point in time, would say about anything about secession. But we would certainly, you know, if the time came, we would certainly take a look at all options.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I heard some news came out about Lindsey Graham in the last few days that's attempting to go viral. I won't bring up the subject, but you had said something about Lindsey when we were talking about Westminster and everything. Without asking your views of Lindsey, would you support a state amendment that would allow us to recall any elected official from the state of South Carolina?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And right to petition to have laws not through the legislature.
Absolutely.
Would you support referendum too? A referendum by the people?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely.
What about concealed weapon permits?
I got
Would you
one in my pocket. Not a weapon, but I've got my permit in my pocket.
Would you support actually not having to have them do concealed weapon now?
Would I support it? Yes. The chances of something like that happening, Pat, would be slim and none. But there is a law right now. Well, they're looking at a law in the books right now in South Carolina where you could keep a weapon under your seat without a conceal. I mean, you can have it in your glove compartment right now and you could keep it under your seat, and I fully support that. I mean, I think anything we can do to strengthen our Second Amendment rights. You know, so many people think of Second Amendment rights and they think about hunting and fishing, and that's part of it. But the real reason of the Second Amendment is to keep your government in check.
Well, the thing that bothers me about concealed weapon permit in the state of South Carolina, I got mine years and years ago.
Yes, sir.
And when I was working with the Republican Party, which that was before I had enough sense that wasn't the way to go, but anyway, I'm not Democrat either. I'm
I
constitutional.
understand.
But whenever I got the list from the state Republican Party of who voted in elections, it actually said who had a concealed weapon permit.
Really?
Why would that information be made public?
That's a good question. That should not be made public.
It was,
That
and
should
it
not be
is.
made public. That should not be made public.
One of the biggest challenges is, of course, our economic situation, like I was referring to earlier.
Yes, sir.
And the dollar's being devalued at a great measure every day. It's just devaluing so much in the international market. There has been talk about an international type of basket currencies to do things on the world market, and things like the euro come up. There's actually talks that are running through the internet as far as a North American function to alleviate and bring some three economies together. Do you, first of all, going back to an old quote that I remember, give me control of a nation's money supply and I care not who makes the laws. It seems like the Federal Reserve has so much control of everything. And will you propose, first of all, talk a little bit about how you feel as far as the control that the Federal Reserve has, and then will you propose legislation in South Carolina to try to, at some fast pace, create some sound money policies and bring in maybe to an extent gold and silver to some extent to kind of alleviate and have sound monetary functions, at least on the state level?
I would certainly need some help, some expert help on proposing legislation, on something like that, because I'm not that. That's a little bit out of my purview. But I think having a sound basis for your money is extremely important. I mean, there's no way. I mean, this is the first time in our history where we've had $1 trillion deficit, not debt, but $1 trillion deficit. And to your point, with the euro and making one big world government. Listen, when I was born and raised, and when I raised my hand, it was just to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And this is a sovereign nation. And as long as I am an elected official or a citizen of the United States, I will support and defend this Constitution and this nation's sovereign rights.
At what point do you think, monetarily speaking, the Chinese will cut us off? 35 trillion, 22 trillion?
I mean, I don't know, Tom. It's kind of like my friend Jeff Hensley from Texas said. He said the only thing worse right now than the Chinese holding all our debt is the Chinese not holding all our debt. I mean, we're at a point right now.
The last one will take it. Huh?
That's right. I mean, and until we stop this spending spree, it's not more taxes and it's not more government regulation. You got to throw the checkbook away.
I said we could have cut out the middleman and gone right straight to Bentonville, Arkansas, and got it from them. They just passed it to Chinese and gave it back.
How do you feel about same-sex marriage and the proposals of don't ask, don't tell that the administration's put forth?
I'm a Christian, and the Bible says one man, one woman. Love the sinner, but hate the sinner. And I'll do everything I can to support and defend the marriage amendment and the protection of the family.
Would you support a pro-life bill? We almost had one in the General Assembly. In the Senate, the vote was 23 to 23. That would have
We had
outlawed
a
abortion.
personhood bill that was just defeated that would define life as beginning at conception.
Absolutely. I would support that
And
100%.
it was just barely defeated.
Absolutely.
Actually, right now, it's sitting in the Senate.
Andre Bauer?
No, who's the committee chairman holding that? The Republican.
Well, Glenn
Glenn
McConnell and Jake
Sitting on.
Knotts for 2, but when they were voting 23 to 23, if Andre Bauer had continued to preside over the Senate instead of taking a little break at the time of the vote, it would have passed.
Yes, sir. I'll tell you one thing, gentlemen, and Grayson will tell you because he hears me speak on the stump every day. First 2 words out of my mouth, I don't care whether I'm talking to a religious group or a school group or a businessman's group or a Rotary Club or whatever. I say, first of all, I believe in God, and through Him all things are possible. And number 2, above all else, I believe in the sanctity of life. And that we have to do everything we can to protect